Why am I talking about this game? Why am I spending this time putting together a video about this little nothing indie title that hasn't received much coverage from too many major outlets? A game that most of you out there have likely not even heard about or know exists. A game that shoots itself in the foot and hinders any chance it may have of success, just from its name alone. It's the kind of name that, as an adult, you're almost embarrassed to say out loud if someone were to ask you what game you're currently playing. Asterigos, Curse of the Stars. You know what? You could have just gone with Curse of the Stars. It's a little generic, but it's fine. Now, Asterigos? While it may be a world-altering event within the storyline, for someone that doesn't know this ahead of time, it's just gibberish. It sounds like a soup, or some sort of medical condition you're going to need antibiotics to deal with. On top of that, this game shows its influence right from the beginning. The lock-on mechanic, the dodge roll, the bosses with the overly long health bars. Yup, this is another one of them there Souls-likes that keep popping up every couple of months ever since that one game basically made a whole new video game genre. It's even got the "this door does not open from this side." It's got mimics. It copies the Dark Souls formula almost to a T, except for one vital thing. It actually has a story with a narrative that you could follow without needing to check out a wiki or looking up a lore video on YouTube to find out what the hell is happening here. And this is a good thing for the most part. The story of this young lady trying to track down the commander of her legion, who so happened to be her father, while simultaneously being caught in the center of the cataclysmic events affecting the world she just landed in, kept me interested from beginning to end. But it's not without two major problems. The first issue is the voice acting, which is something we here in the video game criticism industry refer to as bad. Now, it isn't that it's so absolutely terrible that you're genuinely entertained by it kind of bad. That's not what this is. This is something known as not good. A lot of the voice actors don't sound like they fit the roles very well. Sometimes they sound like they're just mindlessly reading off a script using a cheap theater accent. While most of the main characters in this game do a competent enough job, and the main protagonist is actually done rather well, unfortunately, she sounds exactly like what she is. A somewhat whiny, yet overly enthusiastic kid that started to get on my nerves pretty much from the beginning of the game. This takes away from a well-written and fairly compelling storyline set in a richly detailed and well thought out world. Almost too well thought out, which leads right to my next issue, the world building in this game. If I'm being polite, I would call it impressive, but in practical terms, it is excessive and gets in the way of the core gameplay loop. Every few steps, you're picking up another piece of paper, or scroll, or reading a plaque letting you know about some random politician from 1,000 years ago that has nothing to do with the main storyline. Now, world building can be a good thing, but we are talking Skyrim levels worth of flavor text in a game much smaller in both size and scope. They've got a literal history textbook worth of stuff to read here. And I'm the kind of player that usually enjoys this sort of thing, but I got bored of doing it about halfway through the game. I kept wondering just why there was so much of this, while also feeling compelled to keep reading it because some of it was relevant to a side quest somewhere in the game world, and I don't want to miss those. This is the Souls influence taken to its worst possible extreme. Those games are known for its storytelling through item descriptions and things of that nature, but those are usually just a couple of sentences, not 6 pages worth of some random science experiment gone wrong. It was all way too much for me, so I decided I'm not going to bother with it anymore. I kept collecting these little pieces of paper. There's no way that I'm just going to walk by them and not interact with them. I can't. That might be a bit of a me problem. I'm sure there's plenty of gamers out there that could just play through a game and not bother with too much of this extra side fluff. I just didn't bother reading them anymore. I also disregarded the rest of the side quests. I just played through the game and made it all the way to the end. When I decided to do this, that's when everything started to change. By the time I hit those end credits, not only did I have a pretty good time getting there, but I knew why I wanted to talk about this game and what I would say about it, which may come off as a bit surprising considering what you've heard up to this point, because this is a game I would recommend. This was not what I was expecting while I was reading textbooks of ancient history, but it's how I felt at the end of all of it. And there is a certain irony there to enjoying a game more by deliberately experiencing less of what it has to offer. That's just how things went, though, and it has to be mentioned because it may be your experience as well. Despite this, there is a high-quality product here. Despite that bloated narrative, the overabundance of flavor text and unnecessary exposition, the absolutely cringe-worthy voice acting, the story itself was still good enough for me to want to see it through. Despite the derivative gameplay, I mean, you have the complete checklist here. The lock-on mechanic, dodge roll, the stamina management, a light and heavy attack for each of the 2 weapons you can equip. On the surface, it seems like they ripped everything straight out of the Get Good guidebook. Which, they did, but there's just enough going on here to give it a bit of its own unique feel. Each weapon has an expansive skill tree, adding different special abilities you can use in combat. There's good enemy variety in the various stages, some pretty fun boss fights here and there, and while it can get confusing on occasion to know where to go, pretty solid level design overall. Tight responsive controls, fun fights, there's some pretty good stuff going on here. And despite the fact that this is the first title from some random no-name indie developer, the level of polish here is truly astonishing. It has a nice art style, good music, everything runs really smoothly. I didn't even encounter a single major bug or glitch throughout my entire playthrough. That's more than can be said about some AAA titles lately, from major development studios. All of this at a great price, which is why, despite my issues with Asterigos, Curse of the Farts, this is very much worth checking out. However, actually recommending this game isn't the motivation behind this video. While I certainly do recommend it, this is a high quality product, well worth the money. The real reason why I wanted to talk about this game is the potential I see here. If Acme Game Studio managed their debut to be something this well put together, I can't even imagine what they're capable of doing. This is a talented developer, and I want to see more out of them. That is only possible if they have the resources to do so, which is only possible if this game sells well. which is only possible if you go buy it, just like I did. I did not regret getting this. It may be a lot of a Souls clone, but it is a damn good one. And if you are a fan of this genre, you will more than likely enjoy this game. And if they make a lot of money, I'll get to enjoy more of their games. I tip my hat to you, Acme Game Studio. Here's to hoping that you last a long time in this brutal industry. This has been Zosneral. Now it's your turn. Like the video, do the subscribe thing, all that other good stuff. Make me famous. Make me that money. Go make them the money so they could keep making more games and I get to play them and get calluses on my thumb and maybe ruin my eyesight reading more nonsense.